Baruch Dayan Hamet, we praise the Judge of Truth. I gave Noah, the grandson, an important job in the family room. That was to have everyone turn off their cell phones or set them to stun. And so I'll just ask you here in the big room, he's taking care of it in the family room. I'll ask in this room if you can do that. You know you're here. Somebody doesn't know you're here. They're going to call you and tell you that the Cavs game last night was horrible, but Ohio State is a great place. So please, we gather to pay tribute and to console one another of the passing of our dear Jerry, and begin with Psalm 121. Esai enai el haharim me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. Al yiten lamot raglecha, al yanum shomrecha. Hine lo yanum velo yishan shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomrecha, Adonai tzilcha al yad yaminecha. Yomam hashemesh lo yekeka v'erech b'layla. Adonai yishmarcha mikol ra yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmar tzedcha v'wecha me'ata va'ad olam. I lift up mine eyes unto the mountains, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. The Lord will not let your foot give way, your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. The Lord is your guardian, he is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will guard you from all harm, he will guard your soul. You're going and you're coming now and forever. And we have many of us participating this morning. It's a privilege to call forward grandson Rabbi Bezalel. Sally, you come and do a couple of psalms, and we'll pay tribute to dear Jerry.
Mich tam David shamreni el ki chasisi vach amart el nayad nayata tayvisi ba'al alacha lekdeish mashe beretz heima v'adire kol cheftzei vam yirat v'isam achem haru v'alasich nischechem midam v'alasa esrem sehem elsef say adinai minas chalki v'chaisi ate taimlich kaireli chevali naflu liben imim af nachla lach sofralai avarich es adinai asher yatzani af Leilas Yisaruni, Kechlayasa, Shivis Yanayla Negdi Tami, Kimi Mani, Baal Amait, Lechain, Sameach Libivi Yago Kavadi, Af Bisari Yishkain Levetach, Kiloi, Taza, Ev Nafshi Lishael, Laisit, in Chastech, Aderai Sachas, Vitadien Yedachayim, Shevas and Chais, Espanecha, Nimois Biamin, Chanetzach, Emichtam by David, watch over me, O God, for I put my trust in you. You, my soul, have said to God, you are my master. You are not obligated to benefit me. For the sake of the Holy One who lies in the earth, and for the mighty, all my desires are fulfilled in their merit. Those who hasten after other gods, their sorrow shall increase. I will not offer their libations of blood, nor take their names upon my lips. The Lord is my allotted portion and my share. You guide my destiny. Portions have fallen to me in a pleasant place. Indeed, a beautiful inheritance is mine. I bless the Lord who has advised me. Even in the nights my intellect admonishes me. I have set the Lord before me at all times, because he is at my right hand. I shall not falter. Therefore my heart rejoices and my soul exults. My flesh too rests secure. For you will not abandon my soul to the grave. You will not allow your pious ones to see purgatory. Make known to me the path of your life, that I may be sustained with joy of your presence, with the bliss of your right hand forever. Yeshev b'sei sedel yain b'tzel sarda yislo in oimer lanai michsei mitzudasi alihai evtach boi ki hu yatzach mipach yakush midever havos bavarasa yasach lecha tzutachas kanfav tichse tzina v'zachai ra'im tai leisina mipachad laila meichet yav yaimam midever b'oipel yalech mikatev yasu tzaharayim yipo mitzadecha elef v'revava mimincha Elacha like should rock beinecha sabi to shlemas yeshayim sira ki atha adinai mechsi elyain samta meinecha loy sanei lecha ra'av v'nega yikra beilecha ki malacha vitzav elech lishmarcha b'chol derachecha Cha al kapayim yishuanecha panti goif be'even raglecha al shach al ufa sentir dreif sir mais gefir visanin ki vi chashak ve'apoltehu ashkavehu ki yodas shimi yikareni ve'alnehu amayana chibetz vatzarach atzleina v'achabdehu eirech hamimaspehu v'yarehu b'shuasi. You who dwells in the shelter of the Most High, who abides in the shadow of the Omnipotent. I say to you of the Lord, who is my refuge and my stronghold, my God in whom I trust, that he will save you from the ensnaring trap, from the destructive pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and you will find refuge under his wings. His truth is a shield and an armor. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, the pestilence that prowls in the darkness, nor the destruction that ravages the noon. 1,000 may fall at your left side, and 10,000 at your right, but it shall not reach you. You need only look with your eyes, and you will see the retribution of the wicked, because you have said, the Lord is my shelter, and you have made the Most High your haven. No evil will befall you. No plague will come near your tent. For he will instruct his angels in your behalf, to guard you in all your ways. They will carry you in their hands, lest you hurt your foot on a rock. You will tread upon the lion and the viper. You will trample upon the young lion and the serpent. Because he desires me, I will deliver him. I will fortify him, for he knows my name, and he who calls on me, I will answer him. I am with him in distress. I will deliver him and honor him. I will satisfy him with long life and show him my deliverance.
Amen. Rabbi Marzarov.
Jerry, I'm speaking to you. You can all listen. Thank you for being a support to Esti, my wife Esti, and myself in our work, our shlichut, in running Friendship Circle. By support, I mean both your financial support. You were generous with the pocketbook. You were also generous with your time and expertise when you stepped in as treasurer of Friendship Circle for 7 years in your 3-year slot. So much for accounting. But also thank you for being a teacher to me. Not by your preaching, you leave that to me, but by example. Whatever you gave financial is kind of a closed book. Although I did notice that your family suggested donations to Friendship Circle, which we appreciate, but whatever you've given financially is what you've given. However, as far as you being my teacher, not only has that not stopped, it will actually get stronger and more reinforced every time I think of you. Because the lesson that you have taught me is real and impactful. The lesson I'm referring to, Jerry, is family. Few have done and do family like you. You raised 3 wonderful children, Courtney, Ben, and Chad. Are they the same? No. They're each uniquely and beautifully different, certainly in the careers and life choices they made. And you loved them equally. The love oozed from your being. It was transmitted through your words, your vibes, in just about everything that you did. I can speak primarily through the lens of Courtney and the Evanchik family, as they live right here in Cleveland. And their children know my children. They're good friends. And they went to school together. Their lifestyle was to weave Torah and mitzvot into their lives, into everything they did. And even though that was not how you raised them, you went along with the ride. You lived through them. You wanted to accept them and all that they chose to do. The highlight for me was seeing you embrace the Evanchik angle. It was specifically when I proposed to you that you come with me to the Kinnus HaShluchim. The Kinnus HaShluchim is the International Chabad Rabbis Convention in New York. And you wanted to come. You felt it was another connection to understanding the life and ecosystem of your children. And so we traveled together, and you came into the room. Now that room did not have a dozen Chabad rabbis. It didn't have 100 Chabad rabbis. It didn't even have 1,000 Chabad rabbis. There were 5,000 Chabad rabbis in that room when we walked in. And you soaked it all in. You see, the other guests that I brought with, they were swept into the atmosphere. But you were reflective. I could see that you were there because of family. You had questions. You voiced some opinions about the political tone. It made me realize that you were willing to go to bridge a gap for the love of family. This made a big impression on me. Another teachable moment on that trip was after you, Jerry, went to the Ohel with me. The Ohel is the resting place of the Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory. It is a very solemn place, and people come from all around the world to have their prayers answered at that place. The custom is to write a note asking the Rebbe to pray on our behalf to God for whatever blessing in life we seek. We all need blessings. There isn't a person in this world walking on dry land that doesn't need blessings. So later that day, we were walking on Eastern Parkway in front of 770, and something in me took the courage, or maybe the chutzpah, to ask you, what did you write on that letter? What did you write in your note? Without a second delay, Jerry, you answered me, for the well-being of my family. Jerry, you at the time were having health issues. You were getting dizzy spells, and you were concerned. You had business decisions to be made. But in the moment of truth, when you had the ability to have your prayers answered, you chose the well-being of your family. Lucky to your family for having you in their lives, and lucky to me that I got to spend some quality time with you as a student of life. Thank you for being an amazing life teacher to me. May you rest in peace, and continue to pray to God for the well-being of your entire family. And please keep us in mind as well, if you will. Thank you, Jerry. Tehei Zichrecha Baruch.
And let us say amen to those words. Bonnie, Jerry's sister. Oh, and Gary's coming too? Okay. It was just you wanted to make sure that I could remember his name. Please.
Thank you all for being here. I am Jerry's sister. Jerry was a CPA for decades, calm, steady, always working. He once said he'd retire at 75. That was his number. It always stuck with me, probably because of how certain he sounded when he said it. But life, as it does, has its own plan. He had a heart attack just before that 75th birthday. That ended his working life. It wasn't the retirement he envisioned, but in a way it marked the end of a long, dedicated chapter. We didn't see each other very much in the last 10 years since our parents passed away. We lived apart, had different rhythms, different lives. Still, there's a bond between siblings that time and distance don't erase. I have to thank Ben and Jacana for moving to San Diego because my daughter, granddaughter, and son-in-law live in San Diego. So every time Tracy and Jerry would come to San Diego, I would make a trip to San Diego. But when we were younger, we were part of a bigger circle. Cousins, summer gatherings, shared meals, inside jokes. These moments shaped who we were, and I hold them close. Even if life pulled us in separate directions, we started from the same place. I won't pretend we talked every week, but he was my brother, and today I feel that absence deeply. So I want to say goodbye the way I think he'd appreciate it, with not too much fuss, just a quiet thank you for who he was, for his steadiness he brought to the world, and for the part of my life he'll always occupy. Rest in peace, well, Jerry. Okay, and Ben's going to come up next, and Ben actually has a letter that he had written to his father and read it to him about 2 weeks ago, I believe. So this is the letter to Jerry.
And to those words, let us say amen. Chad's coming, Ben's coming, the grandson, the cell phone maven. Did you do that? Did you get everybody to turn their cell phones off? Beautiful. And son-in-law Aaron, is he coming? Well, he'll come soon. He'll come soon. Oh, here. I know about these things. I have to step on them. Stand up on top of that. There you go.
You do this half, I'll do that.
Okay, good job. So a few weeks ago, I wrote a letter to my dad, and I wanted to read it to him before he passed. You know, we often say things at funerals, but I wanted him to know how I felt about him. And so I made sure I read it, or lowered it a few weeks ago, and I read it to him just 2 days ago, a couple times a few days ago. So it's straightforward, it's simple, but I wanted to share that letter with you today. I think it encapsulates how I feel about my dad. Okay, to my dad. Dad, you're a great man who has lived a great life. I hope you know that. You are so brave. You started an accounting firm on your own when you were young, became one of the top accountants around, well respected by your clients, peers, and colleagues, on boards, in the paper, and on the radio. You bought a bowling alley, and now it's the best in Cleveland. Dad, you are a great man who is a great father. I hope you know that. Look at what you created. 3 children and 5 grandchildren. You loved us. You took care of us. You were always there for us, whether it be helping us with our homework, taking me to soccer games, my siblings to their events, and taking us on amazing vacations. You provided for us. We have lived the most privileged life because of you. You gave us opportunities that most children could only dream of. We are all so proud of you. So proud that you are our father and our grandfather. I hope you know that. You are a loving husband who has provided mom with a dream life. I hope you know that. You are so loved by us all. Thank you, Dad, for everything. Do you want to say a few words? Yeah. So I didn't think I'd get through it, so I asked Noah to come up with me, but I did get through it. So Noah wanted to say a couple things.
And I'd like to say Papa Jerry was the best grandfather in the world.
I wanted to say a few words as well. Closer. Thank you. Right there. Thank you, Rabbi. My dad didn't say I love you. My dad didn't hug us. My dad didn't kiss us. I acknowledge this is a strange way to start a eulogy. While my dad didn't say I love you, hug us, or kiss us, he showed us what love looked like. He was the ever-present. He came to all of our school and sporting events. Our interests were his interests. I liked cars, so he took us to classic car shows. Ben loved soccer, so he got season tickets to the Cleveland Force and the Cleveland Crunch. Courtney became a Hasidic Jew. Well, Dad didn't come a Hasidic Jew, but we just heard from Rabbi Yossi, he participated and supported Hasidic events. He showed love by being a great provider and made sure we never went without. He was generous and caring, making sure we had travel money every time we left the house. While my dad limited where my siblings could go to undergrad, he knew an expensive private school in D.C. was the right school for me and urged me to go and paid all my tuition. He truly was the first Apple wallet. Don't get me wrong, my dad wasn't perfect. He had a temper, and when he was angry, you knew. I'll never forget the time he had to get one of his kids from the police station at 1 a.m. He slammed the door so hard the house shook. I won't say which one it was, but it wasn't me. Of course, Dad mellowed over the years with age and grandchildren. His generous spirit and giving nature extended to them, maybe even more so. Family meant everything to my dad. For his 70th birthday, my dad took all 13 of us to Paris. He loved his modern family and loved taking us to Paris, the city of love. It's a memory I'll never forget and cherish forever. So while my dad never said I love you, he showed us love every day. Dad, I love you, and thank you for showing us love.
And to those words, of course, we say amen. Aaron, please.
I'm Aaron Evanchek. I'm married to Courtney. I'm Jerry's son-in-law. I want to talk about business for a minute. When it comes to business and dealing with this world, my theme is that Papa Jerry won life. That whatever the rules were, whatever the game was, he figured it out, he mastered it, and he won life. What's heartbreaking for us is now that he's done playing the game, he's off the board too soon. So physically, he's going to be missing future simchas and family events. I know he's here looking in that room and seeing everyone here and seeing all of you here and how happy he is to have you here. I met Jerry and Safta and Papa Jerry over 30 years ago. I saw how hard Papa Jerry worked to provide for his family. He didn't just provide life, he provided a cushy and very comfortable life for them. When I met Courtney, they had a big pool that was always hot, like hot, it was always well heated. They had a nice car. I remember your dad had not just a Chrysler, but a Chrysler 300, which was cutting edge, and then they had the Buick Riviera, and he'd let me borrow them sometimes. When the Jeep Grand Cherokees came out, the first ones, he didn't just get one, but he got two, because that way Safta and Papa Jerry could have them. When it came to technology, right, he always had, Courtney remembers, he always had the cell phone, and sometimes she'd call him and he'd yell at her because he was right on the street and she didn't need to call because it was expensive. But whatever the technology was, it was cutting edge. As my kids were there all the time. He put Alexa all over the house to tell it to turn lights on and off in different rooms, and they would mess with it and turn the lights on and off. But he loved the technology, including in his business. Papa Jerry was physically there for us in all the time. When Betzalel was born, everybody was there, and when Courtney birthed him, I looked, I said, "Oh my God, Courtney, you just birthed my father-in-law," because they look so alike. He was physically so present. He never denied his children or grandchildren anything. Chad mentioned his fancy private education, and Ben was lucky enough to go as well to a private school. But Courtney, this was the only time he denied her something. He said you had to pick somewhere in state. Now, that was good for me because she was at Ohio State with me, met and got married and did all that, but that was the only time I know of that there was a limitation. And when we got married, they took great care of us as well. When we moved back to Cleveland, I was looking at starter homes, and he encouraged me. He said, no, we're going to get something nicer, bigger for you, and I was worried about money, and he made sure whenever we needed money, no problem, it was there monthly. As we had babies, they didn't just bring toys over, they filled the house with toys. Courtney and Way went. When we moved in the first weekend, we went away for a wedding back to Columbus. When we got home, there was literally a house, a gigantous house inside our house for the kids. Nothing was ever denied. I don't think any of my kids have ever been told no. Computers, whatever you all needed, you were always told yes. He taught me a lot about business as well, because he didn't just master accounting. Anybody can do a job. What he mastered was client service. He was loved by his clients, and they loved him. And he had favorite clients, and he may have represented one of the Cleveland Cavs for a while, the Grunis Dolgauskas, and I don't know if I said his name wrong, who we all called Z, and my Z has a big signed jersey in his bedroom because of that. He was always happy about that. But he ran a happy office as well. He had a huge fish tank in there. I remember one of the staff members, Michelle, used to always go around calling him Geraldo. Like he enjoyed that. And he created a very valuable practice. He built something great. It was big enough at one point that he was approached by Markham, or Skoda Minotti, who's now Markham, and he trusted me to look at that contract. Education was very important to Papa Jerry. It was important to my parents. That's why Courtney and I get along. His wife, every one of his kids, and his adult grandkids, all of them have master's degree. That's something to be said, but Jerry didn't. Jerry had just a single bachelor's degree. He would joke that he out-earned us all anyways. When it came to Jewish community involvement, as you heard from Rabbi Yossi, he was long serving on Friendship Circle. And if it was important to him, if it was important to us, then it was important to him. As he got toward the end of his career, I was on many boards, so he joined with me. He joined the Cleveland Hillo board with me, the Council Gardens board with me, and again, perhaps he wasn't as religious as we were, but he would come with us at times to Chabad. And he found something that he really liked. We had an auction. So just before we take out the Sefer Torahs, there's a big auction. They put me up there as the auctioneer, and we raised money. And he was sitting in the front row with my boys watching me calling out bids, and he realized this he can do. He might not be able to read the prayer book well, but he can raise his hand, and so he would buy my boys honors, and he really always enjoyed that. When I was going through my own job transition, he gave me office space, and he would send me his clients. And I still hear today, and I know some of them are here today, how much they loved him. His last chapter really was too short. The 70th birthday trip to Paris was memorable for, imagine my kids get to say they've gone on a all expenses paid trip to Paris, and there was no expense spared. He went with us. When we were growing up, we used to have Abba's here. On the way here in the limo, we drove by. We were looking at Cedar Center when we were young. That's where we go out to eat, was Abba's, and Abba's is long gone. But when we were in Paris, the kosher restaurant scene is amazing. And Jerry was knocked over by it. We'd go in there, and you go to a kosher restaurant here, you can tell it's all Orthodox Jews, but in Paris it's full of people. And he turned to Courtney and says, is this place really, really kosher? And he was feeding 14 people at a meal. And he didn't just limit his travel to Paris. I think Benny visited you in Amsterdam. He was able to make a trip to Israel, so at least he got around a little bit. And my kids, you keep hearing, and you'll hear a little bit more from Rabbi Betzalel, but both he and Savta embraced, spoiled, and treasured my kids. They were, again, down there with my parents and family as well. When Sally was born, everybody was there. Papa Jerry made sure to make it to Sally's smicha ceremony in New Jersey, and it wasn't easy for him to travel at the time, even more so when Sally and Hindi got married in November. He was there. He sat up in the chuppah, in his wheelchair next to us, so he got to see him participate in all that. My daughter Shayna, one of her memories is go to baseball games with her, and Shayna, she wanted swag. She'd always come back with lots of stuff from the gift shop, but one time I guess you didn't get a commemorative cup that you wanted, so Papa Jerry went back to the next game to get that cup and to make sure you had it. Zachariah as well, I know Zachariah calls Papa Jerry, would call him, and they would talk sports forever. I don't understand a word they said, but the two of them did, and they would talk every week. And Zachariah remembers some of his birthdays at the bowling alley where his name was up on the sign out front. And my Max, who would play lots of sports games, no matter what the weather was, Papa Jerry was sitting there with us in a chair, in the cold, in the rain, in the snow, to make sure that he never missed a game. He really set an example that honestly got me Courtney, for better or for worse, because ultimately she wanted to marry a man who was like her dad, and I strive to be that way. When we were at the meeting yesterday to prepare for today, we all agreed, and I heard Mom say as well, Safta say, that he really made her happy. And that's when you knew that you won, Dad, when you can hear that. You heard from everybody today that you made us all happy, and all that hard work, it worked, and that's why you won life. At the funeral, we come and we acknowledge the separation of the soul from the body. The body no longer have its nefesh behema, the animal soul that ignites it, the nefesh elokus, the godly soul that ignites it. For the next 11 months, we'll have someone saying Kaddish to help elevate his soul. And we start the morning thinking about the soul. The third blessing, the first blessing we make in the morning is on our hands. The second blessing we make in the morning is after we go to the bathroom, because for all of you know, if something gets blocked or something doesn't go right, we know our health is so important. The third blessing is about our soul. We say, my God, the soul you have given me is pure. You created it. You formed it. You have breathed it into me. You preserve it within me, and you will eventually take it from me and restore it to me in the time to come. So long as I have my soul within me, I offer you thanks, God and God of our fathers, master of the works, Lord and Lord of our souls. Blessed are you, Lord, who restores dead bodies. So we know that our time with him is not over. It has been hard for everybody watching the separation process. For Safta, for Courtney, for Ben, and for Chad. There were a lot of tough decisions that had to be made where there were no good solutions. Papa Jerry's body was failing him, but his spirit, he told us he wanted to keep fighting. He had chemo even just a number of weeks ago, and he said, I want to keep fighting. I want the chemo, even though he knew it probably wouldn't give him more time. The idea that it could, his spirit remained strong, and his spirit remains with us even now. We know he's going to be up in Shemaim in heaven, advocating for us, watching us, protecting us. And I want to acknowledge all the hard work and that Safta and Courtney, Ben and Chad, they really did take the best care of him. Safta literally rearranged her house to make sure there'd be a space for Jerry. We could have good care, and we want to thank his caregivers. Ben and Chad, Ben was traveling. It's not a short flight to San Diego. He would travel across the country. Each flight is basically a day. He would travel across the country to be here. Chad was starting a new job as he was here. My own wife, Courtney, she's got to take care of me, so to cut time out of that, to be able to take care of the kids, Papa Jerry, she would go with him to medical appointments, and she's also starting her new practice. In the end, we know that the body wins. And Papa Jerry said he always said about death that he would say that he was worth more dead than alive. It was something he would say all the time. And I can say with certainty that we would do or pay anything to have him with us here physically longer. So Papa Jerry, first, I want to ask forgiveness for anything I may have done to offend you. We want to thank you for all you've done for our families, for the community, and for your clients. You will be missed and never forgotten. And I have no doubt that we'll eventually attend simchas where your name, Yaakov Meir ben Zechariah, right, we have a Zechariah in there who's named after his father, will be given, that name will come up again. It will be given to someone else, just like all of us in the family carry on names from those who are before us. So may we have no further sad events, but only simchas, and very soon the ultimate redemption. Dad, thank you. I love you. Thank you.
Amen. And Sally, if you would come speak about your grandfather, Rabbi Sally. Are Zachary and Max coming? No. Okay. Just you. That's okay. Yeah. And then when you finish, just sit here.
I sat last night thinking about the memories I'd like to share. I was able to spend 23 happy and long years with my grandfather, and he was able to come to my wedding. For starters, he always would take us to baseball games. He loved taking us to baseball games. Myself, my siblings, and even Noah, when he would come in, he loved it. For my siblings, it was even more fun because they got the sports. It went right over my head. But he sat there patiently trying to explain the stats to me, and he would look at me and goes, "You don't get it." I remember we always would go with him to a game. And there were a couple times, and if you knew my grandfather, you knew if he had a piece of paper, he'd stuff it in his pocket. One time, we're walking through the parking lot. We get to the gate, and he goes, "Look for his ticket." It's not there. So we all had to run back, and we looked the whole parking lot until we found the tickets so we can go to the game. Growing up, we were always at my grandparents' house. Both grandparents equally. We would go to Safta's house and Papa Jerry's house and use the pool. We loved the pool. Summer, we couldn't wait for the pool to be open. We always knew at the end of April, Safta's the pool opening yet? Safta's the pool opening yet? How about now? How about now? Until the pool was open, we would go swimming. The toys, the basement in that house had so many toys. They had, from the bowling alley, they had the Astros video game, I believe, from the 1980s. And we used to play that incessantly. So much so that a few months ago I was in Las Vegas and my father-in-law challenged me to a game of Astros. And I won. I remember I was very interested in model train. So he took me, and I think Zachariah and Max, to somewhere out on, I think in Chagrin, where they had a small little train museum. He took us around and he showed us the trains. And then, because we needed more trains, he made sure there were always trains for us to play with in his basement. Time with him was amazing. I'm lucky enough, being 23 years old, to have met my great-grandparents, both of his parents. I don't have many memories of my great-grandfather, but of my great-grandmother, I have many memories of her sitting in their house, of her coming over to our house, of him being there with her. And he was always there with her. He was always caring. We would also get together every year for Thanksgiving, and Erev Yom Kippur, we would do our meal at his house before. And we'd always sit around, and we'd be at the end of the table, and there'd be the five of us talking, and occasionally I think Uncle Ben or Uncle Chad, you get rotated to sit with us and hear all of our shenanigans. And you guys were amazing. You just sat there, and you let us play and be fun children. When it was coming towards the last few years, right before COVID, it was getting harder for him to walk. So he had told me I would love to do a tour of Progressive Field. It was something he always wanted to do. And I knew there wasn't much time left. So I called my Uncle Ben. I said, when are you coming in? So he said he was coming in this date. And we planned it, and he and I took him with all of my cousins and all my siblings, and we took him on Progressive Field tour. And at this point, it was hard for him to walk. So the tour group was moving in the front, and myself and my Uncle Ben are rotating in the back because he's talking sports with the tour guide the entire time. And sometimes he is outwitting the tour guide. The tour guide put out a picture. And he said, this is from this and this game. He goes, no, it's not. It is from a different game. That's this time, and this is who won. 3 years ago, I got a job offer to work at the kosher hot dog stand in Progressive Field. When I told him, he was ecstatic. He's like, you get to work in the baseball stadium? This is amazing. He was always very happy. Growing up, he would come to every single sports game. My father mentioned he would come to his kids' sports games, even to our sports games. He would come to my baseball games, although I was a bit of a disappointment. I'd sit in the backfield playing in the dirt. Wasn't paying that much attention. But he would go to Max's flag football games. He went to Zachariah's soccer games. I remember him bringing his mother, and he used to sit with Grandma Dee and watch the games with us. And he really showed up. After my bar mitzvah, there was a period of time where I think you and Papa Jerry and Safta were into rock climbing. So I remember he used to take me by himself rock climbing. We used to go together, and he would belay me, and I wasn't particularly good. And even though he wasn't rock climbing, he was just happy to spend time. For my 16th birthday, I got a lot to go through. For my 16th birthday, I was in Pittsburgh in high school. So my Safta and Papa Jerry took my brothers, and they drove in for my birthday. And after we'd gone out to eat, and we had talked, we sat down in the park. And he's like, I have a present for you. Here. He hands me this little bag and goes, there's something very exciting inside. You have a car. And my face lit up. I'm 16. I got a car. He pulls out a Hot Wheels car and hands it to me. Smile on his face the whole time. For his 70th birthday, as was mentioned, he took all 13 of us to Paris. I'm not sure at what point he realized we were all insane, but we were all together for meals, and it was loud and rambunctious. He loved it. He always had a smile on his face. He would sometimes sit there just looking at all of us, taking us all in, proud that this was what his legacy was going to be. When we were in the Pletzel, which is the old Jewish quarter in Paris, a Chabad rabbi walked up to him and said, excuse me, would you like to put on tefillin? He wasn't interested. That was about the last time he ever said no to any of his grandkids putting on tefillin, because we have put on tefillin with him many times since. All of my uncles know, everybody knows. Get ready to roll up your sleeves, because we are going to come around, we're going to ask you, and we're going to get you. When I was in Morristown in rabbinical school, my grandparents flew to New Jersey for a bar mitzvah. On Sunday, they drove up to spend the day with me. They also went to a tour of the Friendship Circle building in Livingston, and I was with them the whole time. We went to George Washington's headquarters in Morristown, and I was getting a nice political rundown of his opinion on George Washington and our government, but he was loving it all the same. The next time I saw him was later that year. He came in for, as Rabbi Yossi mentioned, the kinnis. I got a phone call from my mother, because I was working at the kinnis as a counselor for the young kids who were coming in. My mother goes, your grandfather's thinking about going to the kinnis. Give him a phone call. So I picked up his phone and called. And he tells me, I don't know, I'm thinking about it. And I said, I'm going to be there, and you can come see me afterwards. 2 minutes later, he told me he was done. That was it, he's coming. At the kinnis, after the kinnis, the banquet ended, he came back, I think especially with Rabbi Yossi. The two of them drove back together. They drove to Crown Heights, where I was working. They came and he walked with me. I had a bus back to school that night, but he walked with me around Crown Heights for a couple hours. And we talked, and the first thing he said to me, he goes, there were so many black hats in that room. But we also discussed his thoughts. He said, I finally understand you guys. Finally, you make sense to me. And he also said, for 5,000 rabbis, that food was good. But we talked for a good long while. He was asking me how my day was, always asking me what I was up to, where I was going. He was always interested. A few years later, I told him I was in Pittsburgh. I was working as a rabbinical emissary. I was working at the time, actually. My brother was a student there, and I was his emissary, so my brother had a lot of good perks. But we would always drive back from Pittsburgh, and if any of you know, the route 44, the exit to 44 Ravenna is always right on the way. So we'd always get off, and the first place we would go would be Papa Joey and Safta's house. My mother was annoyed because, hello, come home. But we always went to spend time with them. We always sat and talked. It was amazing. When I told him that I was going to be ordained as a rabbi, he told me, I'll be there. At this point, it was very hard for him to walk. He was supposed to be using a walker. He wasn't. But he wasn't gonna wear a walker. He was going to come. He flew in with my parents, and my Uncle Chad also especially came up, and I'm forever going to be grateful to that. They came, and he sat there through the whole time, unknowingly probably near my father-in-law, who was also there, for my brother-in-law, who was there at the time, but who would have known how small of a world we live in? Afterwards, we were deciding what we would do now. The ordination ended at 4 o'clock. We wanted to get dinner. So we took him to Manhattan to a high-end steakhouse, and he loved it. It may have been kosher, but it had the ambiance of a fancy steakhouse. He sat there. I think he got a burger and tallow fries. Mind you, this is after a heart attack, so we weren't telling. When I told him 6 months ago, when Hindi and I decided to get engaged, we FaceTimed. I think we were sitting in one hotel. We FaceTimed myself and Papa Jerry. And I told them. And he was ecstatic. He was excited. He said, by hook or by crook, I will be at this wedding. It wasn't easy. There were a lot of hurdles in the way. But I will be forever grateful that you showed up to my wedding. And I will be forever grateful that you made that effort. And I will also be forever grateful that my wife got to meet you before. The lesson I want to take away, and I learned from my grandfather, is to always be there. Throughout all of our lives, he always showed up, no matter what was happening. I was lucky enough the last summer I was home, he wasn't able to drive anymore, to spend hours and hours in the car with him, driving him back and forth to the bowling alley for his meetings. We talked history, family history, stories, his life, his young life getting started, advice for my career. He never, ever, ever stopped trying to be there for us. This legacy, he didn't create it alone. The legacy I see when I look over of all of us, 3 children, 3 in-laws, 5 grandchildren, 1 granddaughter-in-law, that legacy is not going anywhere. It's going to continue to grow. He did not do this alone. He did this with a wonderful partner, my Safta. Safta, you and Papa Jerry created an amazing family. We will always love you, and we will always be here for you. And I want to give you a bracha that you should be healthy and happy and willing to merit to see many, many great-grandchildren. Thank you.
So we gather to recall and remember many aspects of our dear Jerry Appel's life and journeys. Yaakov Mar ben Zachariah Vadina. As family members talked about Jerry yesterday, it has been a reminder, and I've talked this morning, it has been a reminder of a beautiful Torah teaching upcoming from the end of the book of Bamidbar, the end of the book of Numbers, and camping. Not that Jerry was a big camper. However, there is depth in this anyway. In Sefer Bamidbar, in the book of Numbers, chapter 31, verse 1, these were the marches of the Israelites who started out from the land of Egypt. And then the Torah goes on to name every single place our ancestors stopped, every single campsite, every single place they pitched a tent is listed. Names that are no place else in the Torah are listed there. Other places that we know very, very well are listed there. And they occupy as much space as the places that we only have listed there. Apparently, God thought there was some valuable lesson in listing all the names of all the camps. So why the list of names? In Midrash Bamidbar Rabbah, there are several reasons given, and here is one, just one, for our dear Jerry. The names of the 42 camps are listed so that we can remember all the miracles that God did for us during the precarious period of our wandering. For 40 years, our ancestors marched through the wilderness, and even though God provided for us, it was precarious. There was water, the sources of water, there was food, there was shelter, or fortresses for protection. It was precarious. We weren't sure about the food and the water, even though God was going to provide. But we didn't know about the food, the water, the shelter, the fortresses for our protection. The shelter was God. Our sukkah was a protection of God. And each name of the camp reflects yet another time when God protected us when we laid down to sleep. And so the Midrash teaches that God instructed Moses to write down all the stages our ancestors journeyed in the wilderness in order that we would remember the miracles that God did for us. And this is a touching reminder of Jerry, because your dear brother and husband and brother-in-law and father and uncle and grandfather and relative and friend at each and every stage in your lives, and especially when you were in the wilderness, Jerry was a provider. He was a provider of food and water and shelter in the physical sense and in the emotional sense and in a spiritual sense. And when we reflect upon the stages of our lives and the names of each and every campsite, we reflect yet another time on when and how Jerry cared for us, and when and how Jerry helped us and protected us when we laid down to sleep. Jerry was born September 21st, 1947, here in Cleveland. His parents of blessed memory, Sidney and Dorothy. He's survived by his dear sister Bonnie, her husband Gary, nieces Kelly and Amy, his dear wife Phyllis, but I think maybe most people know her as Tracy, but somebody knows her as Phyllis, and that's how I call her. It's because her brother calls her Phyllis. They were married June 25th, 1972, which is 52 plus years. It would have been 53 years this coming June. Want to make mention of Phyllis's brothers Mark and David, and wives Jill and Enid, and more nieces, Ilana and Carrie of blessed memory, and nephew Andrew. They met Rabbi Fred Eisenberg at Congregation Beth Israel in the early 1980s, and then followed Rabbi Fred in 1985 to become founding members of Temple Israel Ner Tamid. And Phyllis said, we followed that man and have been with the congregation ever since. And this is another example of Jerry and Phyllis and the extended family providing support for numerous campsites and organizations and congregations, Jewish congregations and non-Jewish organizations as well. They had a loving and devoted marriage of more than 52 years, and I'd like to mention by name the children and the grandchildren. And if I miss somebody, please call it out, because I know it's not a shy group. All right, Courtney, Ben, and Chad. Aaron, Chicana, and Denny. And grandchildren, Sally, or Rabbi Bitzalel now, you're a rabbi. Rabbi Bitzalel, Shana, Zachariah, Max, Noah, and Sally, Hindi, who I look forward to meeting. Ben, you said we were everything to him. And then Phyllis, you said he was emotional. He cried through all the kids' weddings. You didn't see it oftentimes because he was quiet, but he cried through all the kids' weddings. and the grandkids' weddings. He loved Cleveland sports, and he was a huge Buckeyes fan, too. Can I tell them about this? I think this is Buckeye wood. The casket. I don't know what that means, but it means that he was a big supporter of Ohio State. It's been a difficult medical journey, as you have spoken. And Jerry always wanted to make his wife happy. She had a horse. They moved out to Auburn. That was going to be their retirement home, she said. And then she had a horse, and then she was talking about another horse for something, and he said, buy another horse. It's always good to try to make your wife happy. They were helpmates for many, many years. And on Shabbos morning, he breathed his last, and now there's just rest and wholeness and peace. Just as Shabbat is a time of rest, so too, for our dear Jerry, it's a time of rest and peace. His soul is returned to God to be with the souls of his dear relatives and friends and ancestors of our people. We learn this in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 7. The dust returns to the earth as it was. The spirit returns to God who gave it. And one day all of us will join our loved ones in Olam Haba, the world to come. Olam Haba is not a physical place. It's a time. It's an eternal time. And we will be together again with the souls of our loved ones. We're sending along a Machzor and a Passover, a Pesach Haggadah with him in the casket, because not only is it a mitzvah to escort the body of your loved one to its final resting place, also holy books of our tradition with God's words, the names of God in it. We're sending a Haggadah in particular because Passover is a time when we recall and when we give thanks for our ancient liberation from Egyptian slavery. And we are free today because of God's deliverance those many, many years ago. And Jerry has been liberated from and delivered from any sort of deterioration or illness or pain. You have many, many memories filled to overflowing, and we give thanks to God for this gift of life. Kinder and more thoughtful of others, and let us do many, many deeds, many, many mitzvot, so the world can be compensated for the loss of this good and decent man. He's a mensch, a good and decent man. And so we conclude with words from the first chapter of the book of Job, Pasuk 20, I think, verse 20. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevarach. The Lord hath given, the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Amen. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. May God, who causes peace to reign in the high heavens, cause peace to rain down upon us, upon Israel, and upon the soul of our dearly departed Gerald Mark Appel, our dear Jerry Appel. And let us say amen. And now Rabbi Bitzalel for El Maleh Rachamim.
El Maleh Rachamim, Sheichei Meraymin, Hamtzei Menucha Nechayna, Al Kanfei Ashchina B'Mailes, Hakadeshim Utahirim, Kezayar Harakia Mazirim Esther Shmas Yaakov Meir ben Zechariah Shahalach le'olamai Ba'avor Shenadvu b'tzedakah ba'ad Haskaras Nishmasoi B'gan Eden Tehu Menuchasoi Lachein Ba'al Harachamim Yastireu b'seiser Kanfav le'lamim Veitzreu b'tzorei rachayim Al Nishmasoi Adinai Hu Nachlasoi V'yanuach al mishkavoi b'shalom v'neimar. Amen. O God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant true rest upon the wings of the Shekhinah, in the exalted spheres of the holy and pure, who shine as the resplendence of the firmament to the soul of Yaakov Meir ben Zechariah, who has gone to his supernal world, for charity has been donated in remembrance of his soul. May his place of rest be in Gan Eden, therefore may the all-merciful one shelter him with the cover of his wings forever, and bind his soul in the bond of life. The Lord is his heritage, may he rest in his resting place in peace. And let us say, Amen.
Would everyone please rise for a moment? Into your care, O God, we entrust the spirit of our dear Jerry Appel. For you keep faith with your children in death as in life. Sustain us that we may meet with serenity the mysteries that lie ahead, knowing that when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you, O God, are with us, a loving friend, in whom we put our trust. You are the light of our life, our hope in eternity. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to our dear Jerry Appel. He has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. In a moment, they will come in and we will take the casket and we will go to the hearse, and then we're going to Mount Olive Cemetery. If you are going to the cemetery with us, we will be filling in. It will take us a little bit of time, and it'll be our privilege to do this mitzvah. If you're not going to the cemetery with us and you want to come to the Shiva meal right after, it will be at Temple Israel near Tamid on Lander Road, 1732. We'll probably be there in about an hour and a half or an hour and 45 minutes from now. And then we'll recite Kaddish at the grave, and we'll recite Kaddish at the synagogue, and he'll have many Kaddishes for a long time. So this concludes our service here, right here, and we'll now go to the cemetery.